let me quickly say this. If you don't mind, I'd like to speak directly to the listener. Dear listener, as Adam mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I have not been smoking weed. It has been about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I think we can all agree that, contrary to popular belief, I actually become stupider the more sober I am. I apologize for my stupidity. I do try to be the hot takes guy. You know, it's stupid and it's fun or whatever. But apparently, a sober Aaron is a dumb Aaron. So please, don't listen to anything I have to say. And maybe, Adam, you can cut this and put it before the intro. Because, like, bro, I guess I got some growing up to do, Adam.
Quack. Quack. Q-U-A-C-K. Quack.
Quackity quackity.
Quack.
Quack.
This is, wow, I forgot my intro. 12 and oh. See, listeners may think that, Adam's high. He doesn't know what he's doing. Actually, quite the opposite. Aaron and I are on a little smoke break until 4:20. So it's the opposite. My brain is rotting because of the
That's right, baby.
12 and oh. I am your host, Adam Chimero.
No, he forgot the intro. And I'm Aaron Schroeder.
Remember my name at least, though. And this is the Quack 12 Podcast, the most official, unofficial, and the most unofficial, official Oregon Ducks podcast on the web footosphere. And Aaron, well, there's not much Duck basketball this week, but I'm still watching a whole lot of basketball because I still love March Madness, and it's really grabbed the sports world zeitgeist, if you will. It's pretty fantastic.
What's going on?
Well, it's a fantastic time where the men's side, there's still some entertaining stuff going on. UConn is absolutely dominating. The real only little darling left is like NC State, the Wolf Pack. They got a really charismatic player, Burns, who looks more like an offensive lineman, but has the footwork of a Baryshnikov, Aaron.
Wait, he's the big boy?
He's the big boy. He's very
I've been
fun to
seeing
watch.
a lot of TikToks of him. Yeah, people love to watch him shoot the ball. It's pretty impressive.
It is pretty impressive, right, for a dude that size to be that light on his feet. And he beat Duke. And fuck Duke.
Hey, Chris Farley.
Yeah.
John Belushi.
It's true.
You don't have to be a thin person to be acrobatic.
That is absolutely true. I remember one time in college at the University of Oregon, which I attended. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were a college willing to accept a very low GPA in exchange for it. They're like, yeah, shut up, give us your money. But so I got in there and I took a running class, and this dude who like had easy like 90 pounds on me, I was freaking amazed how fast that guy was. You never can tell. But so the men's side,
we're walking a thin line here of
walking a big line.
Hey.
Anyways, but we're a body positive podcast. We always have been. So men's side, there's some good storylines going on, but it's really just some great basketball teams, great
regular
basketball players. But really, the whole sporting world, for good and for bad, are looking over at the women's side at a pretty big, at a historic level. I feel like ESPN's putting up some really good numbers. Now, as Pac-12 fans, Pac-12 mourners, it's pretty bittersweet because I mean we had a pretty good showing. We got a lot of teams into the tournament. However, we are at the Final Four, and there are no Pac-12 teams, and it does bum me out. USC got the furthest. Stanford got knocked out, obviously. And then actually, so everyone wanted to see Iowa against LSU. That is the story. Does this feud or kind of battle cross your path at all on the TikTok sphere or anything? It's pretty big. So what it is like LSU has a bunch of really charismatic characters like Haley Van Lith, who was a transfer from Lawville, who's like Instagram famous and is a very like good defender, like a fun player to watch. Bayou Barbie, aka Angel Reese. She's just
Bayou Barbie.
She's the Bayou Barbie, baby. Like
wow.
She is. The LSU won it last year too. She is a very like intense player. Is down to shit talk, like to a level that you haven't seen since like the Bad Boy Pistons.
Okay,
like, it's pretty fun, but
I think it actually is. Maybe it was LSU. I have gotten one thread of TikTokery out there for the women's madness, and it is about a player. She has a blonde ponytail, but she is like hyper fucking aggressive to the degree at which there was a play where the clip was all about her quite literally making a block where she just strong shoulders another player just out of the way.
Bro, I gotta
and it was
tell
like,
you.
yo.
I gotta
Let's
tell you.
cool it fucking down.
It's so unfortunate.
Is that her?
Possible. I'll tell you this.
Possibly. We'll see.
The description of blonde ponytail does.
I mean,
quite...
I know. I know.
You're not really being sexist because we could be talking about the men's side and you'd be like, there was a guy, he was wearing a jersey, did a dunk at some point. But
black dude, he was like 6'4".
You know him, right?
That's just all I remember. It was a TikTok, and I saw foulness on the court. I was like, "Hey, that's over the line."
This is the thing, dude. It's. I will say on the women's side, the product on the court, like the players, has been fantastic. There's been some great close games. There's been some like overall, it's the best teams are just dominating, especially because they get home court advantage. But off the court, there has just been an insane amount of just unprofessionalism by the people running it. I mean, you remember years ago when Sedona Prince pointed out...
We're talking about NCAA shenanigans.
Oh, yeah. And just many things, but mainly NCAA and just their lack of really prepping this for what it should be. Like you remember Sedona Prince calling out the hypocrisy of the weight rooms and how just complete bullshit that was. Well, for this, there's a lot of stuff like, well, for example... This happened in Portland, so this is a little bit on Portland, too. I believe it was Texas UConn. They had to play on a court that had two different lengths of three-point lines. Because they were just
I quickly saw a thing about how the measurements were wrong.
Oh, it was bullshit. It was just, and it's just a complete, like, they fucked up. And I get that you should be like, sometimes people fuck up. But, like, this would have never happened for the men's tournament. Never in a million years would this ever happen.
So, this basketball court just had its lines painted?
Well,
it hasn't been a basketball court for years?
Well, no. So, it's because there's the men's and the women's three-point line are different.
That's right.
I don't know what happened, but they changed, like, the one side to do the women's. And then went out to lunch, had too many Long Island iced teas, called it early, said, I'll do it early in the morning. They slept in. We're like, oh, shit. And then apparently we're like, well, I'm a misogynist. Who watches women's basketball? And left it the same. I don't know.
Look, I think we can all agree. Portland's main attraction for moving there
Is
is that
fentanyl.
you can be allowed to half-ass anything
Yeah, that's true,
and
yeah.
be successful at it.
It's true. Unless it's opening up a restaurant, because you better be on your fucking A game. That's the one
No.
thing.
You don't want to open up a restaurant in Portland because you have to full ass it. If you want to open up
Yeah.
a restaurant in Portland, you open up a food truck because
Exactly.
that's how you half-ass it.
Then you can completely half-ass it. I agree. And so like that's like one of many things. The officials, the reffing, has been god awful. Has been god awful. The amount of shit they call. Now, conspiracy-minded people such as yourself,
Or don't call because of the thing that I saw with that
exactly
with old
like,
girl being brutal.
Many people are.
And
being
she just
like,
looked mean, honestly. I just didn't like her vibe. She vibed me wrong. It's like, you're mean. I get it, you're aggressive on the
Was
court.
she
That's
wearing
cool.
purple? Do you know? Does that help?
I just can't remember. I think it was an LSU player. I just can't remember.
I mean, probably then.
This is
but,
only in the last few days, so it's a team that's still in it. So
for me, the teams that got absolutely hosed the most was for early on, especially on their own home courts for some reason. Iowa, it's very clear at ESPN is like the biggest numbers we're going to get are Caitlin Clark's Iowa team. I mean, Caitlin Clark is the biggest women's basketball player in America right now, probably maybe in the world, and she's
Dope.
fantastic, absolutely. So her with Iowa, and then LSU in general, who has, you know, like I said, Bayou Barbie, Flojo Johnson. I'm probably saying that wrong, which is. I'm sorry, everybody. But she's signed, like she's an actual rapper signed with I don't know, somebody. And then they have Satan herself, Kim Mulkey, is their coach, LSU's coach. Could not be a worse individual. Absolute dog shit human being, and if there is a hell, she will be rotting there for the rest of eternity. But so there's her. She's the coach. People love rooting against her. I do too. In life and everything.
because she is a
happens to
bad
her.
person.
She's a real bad person. She's very homophobic, which is a strange thing to do. Be in women's basketball. She was the coach for
Why?
I mean, just because like it's women's basketball, there's gonna be some people that are gay. I mean, in men's basketball too, but you know, like you're gonna have some players who are, you know, out, and she does not like that. She fully doesn't like that. She's a very
That's
religious
just
person.
fuck. That's
I know.
fucked.
No, she's a terrible person. Like
Right.
Brittany, you remember Brittany Griner in Russia? She was in
Yeah.
Russia. Yeah. Kim Mulkey was her coach in college.
Oh no.
And the entire time she was in Russia, because you know how like a lot of people made it.
She was like glad she was in jail.
She refused to have any comment. Which is like, she refused to even be like, I'm sad that she's in a prison in Russia and I hope they return her soon. Like that was too far for her, apparently. I remember I watched this one interview where she comes in and she's hacking, and like this is like 2021 or something like that, and she's like, oh yeah, and you know, like I probably got COVID, so you probably all got COVID out there now too.
Oh my god. So she's just got like
Oh yeah,
she's just got a bad attitude about life.
she a bad lady with good fashion sense though, because she wears like basically Elton John-esque clothing on the court.
Oh, I have seen photos of her big fluffy pink feather things. Yeah, she looks the part of being a bad. She looks like MAGA incarnate, to be honest with you, because nobody actually wears that shit and thinks it's cool.
Well,
I'm a loud and proud person.
I would love
that wears that shit.
I would love if you know, even if she just didn't like put her shitty ass opinions in the world, if she just dressed the way she did and she was and just looking at what she gets on the court, I would be like, I love this lady. But she's a great basketball coach. She was a great player back in the day. Terrible person. But so there's so many personalities, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to say. The pictures I saw of her with the pink, big, feathery
Cool.
thing.
You're from Texas. I'm sure it's what the mayor fucking wears. I don't know.
This is literally where I was about to go. What it reminded me of is that your basic suburban stay-at-home Karen whose husband is the town doctor. And so because of that relationship, she believes her opinion is 20 times more important than anyone else's. And so they get to get away with wearing the stupidest shit you've ever seen in your entire life. That is how I saw her. I immediately knew, oh, this is a shithead.
She a shithead. She's a great coach, but she a shithead. Terrible person.
Both can be true.
Yeah. And last year they met in the Final Four, Iowa and LSU. It was a big game, but LSU dominated, and their players weren't very good. They weren't very good sports, is what I'll put it. Like,
Sure.
you know, like Bayou. I mean, it's funny. Like, you know, I'm a fan of wrestling, so like, I love a heel. Don't get me
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
You know, I love
They're the
it.
best part of wrestling.
You don't have to be a good sport. You know, but like Bayou Barbie was drawing like with a marker a ring, like a championship ring, before the game was even over when they had an advantage, and then they would go out and like to Iowa's best player, be like this, like when they got fouled out, be like kind of show it off, or like even in this tournament,
It's also a you can't see me John Cena
oh, yeah. It's a
move.
John
yeah.
Cena. You can't see me. There'd also be like when people would get like fouled out, she just kind of like wave like bye, like rude, but you know, obviously there's backlash.
That's her. That was a
Yeah.
part of the clip. Was her
Oh, sure.
being just absolutely rude. Just
Yeah.
And see, to me, red card, bad
Oh, yeah.
sportsmanship, dude.
That's
Get
the
the
thing.
fuck off my fucking court.
So
You do not get to play. Yeah. Go
LSU
ahead.
UCLA had a great game.
Okay.
Very back and
Okay.
forth. And it was a thing where it's just like, this is where I'm at. Like, obviously on the internet, if you want to go on the internet, like people see this and like go so far the other side where they're like, well, now you're literally being like racist, misogynist, like calm the fuck down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's a really shitty sport, and they are not calling on her things. And at one point, like she goes over to the UCLA bench and is just like talking shit to them, like
You're
walking by
fucking
the whole
kidding
thing.
me.
And the refs don't call. Like the refs have been so on the side of the big teams, Iowa, LSU, even Stanford. Some would say, like. On the women's side, they are just calling inconsistent basketball. I don't believe in like full-on conspiracy theories of like trying to get teams to a certain place, but I can tell
do.
you they are not. I mean, many people do, and there's a whole lot of evidence in these where you're like,
That can support it.
they
Yeah.
are favoring Caitlin Clark. They are favoring LSU. Like they want the big numbers of those two teams playing.
Okay. Conspiracy Corner. Here we are. We're in it. We're doing it.
We need
Here's what
a
I
theme
think.
song for Conspiracy Corner one day.
We do.
Yeah,
I just came up with them. I just came up with this. It's right off the top of my dome.
let's hear it. Probably right then.
NCAA has a woman basketball problem, which is it's tough to get as much money in the sponsorship realm as it is in the men's. Really easy to get a bunch of fucking money for men's. But women are still having that stigmata against them, right? It's not real basketball, blah, blah, blah,
Stigma,
blah, blah.
not stigmata. But I love that
yeah,
you said
thank you.
that because that's what Kayvon Thibodeau did. Remember? He famously was
No.
like, "There's a stigmata against
Oh,
Oregon education."
Well, I do feel like he is a brother from another mother. We
Yeah,
do
yeah,
operate in the same realm.
they're pretty similar,
Uh,
yeah. Especially
But
athletically.
so the NCAA has a financial problem, right? They need to generate hardcore income for women's basketball because it is struggling.
Yeah.
What do those kinds of actions create? Headlines, clicks, streams, views in huge batches.
Yeah.
Which then generates the conversation, which then generates brands seeing, oh, there's a lot of traction here. Maybe we should get in on it. Let's like throw a couple of bucks that way and like, get in on this like controversy. This is a well-orchestrated move by the NCAA to generate financial wealth so that So yeah, and they've basically probably told the refs to a certain degree, let things slide because, or it was a natural thing where it's just one shitty ref fucking up, and then all of a sudden the NCAA sees like, oh shit, that got like 5 million different clicks from 20 different creators. Let's kind of keep that going. Let's just let this be soft.
They're
Let's be
Vince
soft.
McMahonning this shit. They're
Oh yeah,
puppeteering.
I think
Well,
that's what's going on. I
I'll
think
tell
that's what's
you,
going on.
The Beaver fans will absolutely agree with you on that one.
Right on.
Because they played truly. It felt a little more like robbed, or maybe more than like anyone. Not anyone, but certainly out of maybe the Pac-12 teams, because they were doing great. They were playing against South Carolina, Tina Paopao, who's doing great.
Oh.
I am rooting for Tina Paopao.
Yeah,
I
she's
don't like-
crushing.
I don't like their coach, but she is crushing. So they like Reagan Beers, who's like their center, a huge part of the team. She got a couple of fouls called on her super early, which definitely hurts her style of play. And one of them, if you watch it, it's just they're inbounding the ball. The other player just comes in with an elbows her like hard as hell. Both of them fall down, and they're like, foul on Reagan Beers. It's genuinely, you can make a highlight compilation of just terrible reffing calls, and almost all of them are benefiting LSU or Iowa, especially like the free throw discrepancy is pretty alarming. I mean, sometimes it's, people foul Caitlin Clark because she's so good, so they're going to get more fouls. But there's some cases of these refs, and many people are calling this out. It's not just me. The reffing in the men's side is definitely better than the reffing on the women's side. Another little fiasco going on for the women's, specifically, I believe it was for I want to say the Utah team. I definitely should know this. The Utah team, yes. They played against Gonzaga, right? And only in the women's tournament, the first 2 rounds, the top 4 seeds, I do believe, get to play at home. That's not what the men's do. Men's do, they have just different random regions, and you go and you play there.
Right. Keep it neutral.
Yeah, so it favors the top 4 seeds a lot more. I don't love it, but there's reasons behind it. But it makes it really hard because the men's, they can plan this, they can schedule these things out like crazy, like years in advance because of this. But
Right.
because the way the women's do it, they can't schedule those first 2 rounds in advance because you got to wait to see who the top 4 seeds are.
Right.
So Utah, and normally it's not a problem. Utah, they're going to play in Gonzaga. Gonzaga has a volleyball tournament, and they have a men's tournament there. So between the amount, they only have so many hotels. They only have so many places to stay. It made it so Utah had to stay in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. You know anything about Coeur d'Alene, Idaho?
I do. There is a college there.
I believe
Right?
so. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I know it's a
I've been
beautiful
there.
city. It actually is a beautiful area around it. I've been a lake house in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's absolutely, our lawyer took us there, actually. Famous Gonzaga.
That's
fan.
why I know Coeur d'Alene is because of the lawyer has brought it up and talked about it. There we
Yes. Well, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is also known. Maybe some Idaho fans will be angry with me saying this, but it's very apparent for being very racist. They are absolutely like a white supremacist stronghold. Many people are.
Is it a wealthy town as well?
I believe so. I believe parts of it are. Well, I don't think it's like a completely wealthy town or anything, but there are sects of it. I mean,
It's not like Big Sur where it's just white rich people who don't like Mexicans.
I mean,
showing
Idaho,
up.
it's probably like the fanciest city they ever seen in their fucking lives. But it's this.
Sure.
It is a known, like, remember when they found that big U-Haul full of those khaki wearing MAGA guys?
Yeah, just recently. Yeah.
like they have, they're connected with like Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and so, and it's just
Cool.
it's a long
Cool.
history.
Great.
If I'm being real,
Great.
it's just a long history, and people are kind of flocking there, because of its like beliefs. Well, the Utah team, a big headline is they straight up had to leave the town because they went out to go get lunch, and immediately a big truck revs their engine, calls them, shouts out the N-word at them, and drives away. Then it happens again on the way back. I believe different people, different truck. So
My God, man.
They just had to abandon the city and go somewhere else.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, and again,
This country ceases to surprise me with how atrocious we can actually be to each other. It is insane.
Yeah. And so they had to go somewhere else. And again, it's like something that the men's team wouldn't have to deal with because of the structure, the way they're structured. And
I did just see a video though that some mayor took to Twitter with photo evidence of immigrants infiltrating the city.
Yeah.
And it was like,
It was
brother,
the Gonzaga basketball team.
yes. Yes. And it was like, dear God, dude, you're the mayor?
You're the fucking mayor? You're the mayor? What kind of hodunk town is this?
Yeah, man. Like, my
Was he wearing,
God.
let me ask, in a picture of him, was he wearing a barrel with suspenders? Was that his suit?
I do think so.
Jesus.
Yeah, I think he had a
fucking Christ.
corncob pipe as well.
Can you imagine being so fucking stupid that you think
Yeah.
it's an immigrant? It's the Gonzaga basketball team, you
Yeah.
dumb shit. Which
It's
is a
also
lighter
like-
basketball team than most basketball teams,
And-
you dumb fuck.
Here's my query. How do you not know what's going on in your own fucking town?
I know.
Or do you know, but again, you are trying to play the algorithm game
Yeah.
to create and stir up some shit?
And speaking the algorithm, you got fuckboys like Elon Musk, who on Twitter, like that story popped up, like that's where he really went to because that's a right-wing stronghold now as well. I mean, by the way,
Yeah.
if you're a diehard right-winger and you're still listening to the Quack 12 podcast, power
Go fuck
to
yourself.
ya, but,
No, go
yeah.
fuck yourself.
But
If you are a far right winger and you are still listening to this and you think that I have good takes on shit, here's one for you. Quack, quack.
y'all don't know it was just edited out, but it was a pretty spicy take. Anyways, so like the mayor's tweet was like up on Twitter, and like he can't control who's gonna tweet something like right away, but you can control if it's left up, and Elon just leaves it up. Just like it's just up there, complete misinformation. Like it's absolute bullshit. And so, and on the women's side again, it's like men don't have to deal with that shit because it's like, ugh. And so, Pac-12 women, one by one, they all lost. Some of them it was just like to the better teams. I mean, Colorado got boat raced by Iowa.
Okay.
USC lost fair and square to UConn. They got the
Okay.
furthest. Overall, I think it has been a really, and actually when LSU and Iowa played, it was nice to see both teams weren't being especially rude or nasty towards each other. And even, the LSU team, which are known for being real bad sports, the post-game presser, like Bayou Barbie, like Angel Reese came out being like, too, it's like, I don't deserve the amount of death threats I've received. I don't deserve the amount of like over sexualization I've received and that. And it's like, power to you, like.
I'm the victim in the situation.
It was a little bit like
Fuck
that.
off.
I mean-
I don't give a shit. Don't be a piece of shit on the court.
And that is true too.
Don't be an asshole.
That is
Don't
true,
be an
too.
asshole. Guess what you won't get anymore?
Well, hold on.
Guess what won't happen?
She will get death threats because she's a women's basketball player who's black and famous. Like, that's gonna happen if she was.
Oh,
the
wait.
nicest
That's
person in
Bayou
the world.
Barbie is the black lady?
Yeah. You're talking about.
No, I'm talking about a white
You're
lady.
talking about Haley Van Lith.
Maybe.
But I'll tell you
a
this.
very mean person.
I'll tell you
Okay.
that. I'll tell you this though. Her too. I mean, you know, she every once in a while posts some what you'd call a thirst trap, but still, the amount it does get a bit creepy. The amount of people just being like,
Oh, because you said she's Instagram famous, right?
oh, she's pretty damn famous for photos that have nothing to do with basketball.
Sure.
The whole thing is a bit creepy.
Instagram loves those photos.
Yeah, of
Let's be
course.
honest.
I mean, the world loves those photos. Nothing wrong with posting those photos. Post the photos. We all love them. But it's just this fine line. But at the same time,
That's creepy.
the controversy.
That's gross. Yeah.
The controversy has helped the women's basketball. It is nice the amount of just energy the women's side has right now. Like everyone said, like. Everyone's eyes were towards the LSU games, to a lesser extent the Pac-12 games, unfortunately. But it has been a good tournament, and I don't know. There's a bunch of ugliness, there's a bunch of strangeness with these things, but overall, I've still loved March Madness. I've still loved basketball. Let's talk about yeah. What do you got to say?
Well, I was going to try to look up who it was that actually I don't know how to actually discover who it was that I saw in the clip because I do want to be accurate about it because I'm realizing
completely different.
Exactly. I could be talking about some random person.
Well, I'll tell you this.
But they were doing rude shit constantly, and so it makes me feel like it was blonde ponytail. That's all I can remember.
Well, you're saying ponytail. She has pigtails.
No, this was a ponytail.
Well, then you were
and
talking about somebody that we don't even know, but you certainly hate them.
Right. Yeah. And they're just rude on the court. So anyway, dear listeners, you've heard me for the last 30 minutes be really atrocious to someone who I honestly have no idea who it is. Therefore, I apologize. I tried to fact check. I can't do it fast, so I'm not going to try.
That is the Quack 12 way.
But Adam, before we kick away from women's sports.
I'm still not ready. Yeah, I still got something here.
Oh, okay. I want to dial back around to the whole difference in the lines, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was fucked.
That reminded me of something that I thought about the other day that kind of confused me. And it didn't, I was like, this doesn't actually make much logical sense. In women's basketball, the ball is smaller than the men's basketball, correct?
Yes.
But a softball is bigger than a baseball.
It's true. Well, both, I mean,
what's up with that?
It comes down to what I assume you can, boil down to, again, sexism, is, but, there's some reality in this as well. In that they're saying, well, we need to make the sport easier for the women because they are not as good as athletes. This is the idea behind these things that started these things. So, well, what is...
The concept is that women have smaller hands.
Oh, yeah. Well, sure. But it's also, if a ball is smaller, it's easier to get in the hoop for basketball. If a ball is bigger, it's easier to hit with the bat. And it also goes less far.
Oh, you're seeing it in a different viewpoint than I was. Because I'm just looking at it as a ratio scale to the hand.
Yeah.
You'd
it's
think
a sticky situation.
that you would think they shrunk the basketball because it's easier to hold because their hands are smaller because of sexism, like you said. But then
in reality,
the way they fling a softball, you would think you'd want a smaller ball because that thing, a bigger ball, is going to come out of a quote-unquote smaller hand easier than a small ball.
It's
I don't know.
I don't think it's...
It confused me.
It's not necessarily hands. I'll tell you it's a sticky situation because for the ball, I would love if they made all the three lines the same 3-point lines. I don't know.
I think it should all be the same.
You would certainly avoid situations like this. The women's basketball teams would adjust to it. It would take a while, but they would adjust to it. I think it would even just even
I
out.
see many women players stepping 2 feet back off the line, shooting threes too.
Sabrina,
they're there, they're doing it.
Watch Caitlin Clark. She's hitting that shit from half court. And Sabrina, when she shot against Steph, wanted to do it from the men's 3-point line because she didn't want the bullshit of people, saying, "Oh, well, she shot it." But and this is part of it, she also was like, but I'm going to be shooting with the women's ball, because that is something you can't really mess with this far into the development of players, is you can't change the weight, the shape of a ball when it's like, I've been practicing my entire life with a ball that feels like this. Now, hold on. So that is the idea of it. So, but I agree. I think you should change it to the men. So just even the whole thing out. But to do that, you would have to do it gradually. You can't just be like, WNBA, you're playing with a men's ball. Literally everyone's shot would just be way off. Just the same as if you went to the NBA and said, hey, everybody, you're playing with a women's ball. The percentages,
Right.
in my belief,
But-
wouldn't go up because of the women's ball. They would go down because their physical memory would be off. So you would have to
It should be a
introduce the men's ball gradually at younger levels of a development.
There it is. It's not the argument is around a professional level, when the answer is at, well, get them started in start kids in middle school with these different things right now. So by the time they do make it to college, that change has come with them. That way you can just keep track of, okay, well, they're in the 8th grade now. So by the time they are a freshman in college, that's 5 years down the line. We know where our begin date is, right? It's 5 years into the future. We don't have that. This is the other thing I was noticing, and this is men's basketball, but it did make me think of this because I had noticed another clip since the 90s. I feel like the average height of a basketball player then 6', 6'2". Your tall guys were 6'4". Now we're getting to a space where the average height is 6'4", 6'6", 6'7". Your tall guys are 7'1".
In real life, not NBA, right? Because that would be small.
NBA.
In the NBA,
Your average height.
No, NBA average height is way taller than that. Like a short
Okay,
dude
well,
is
then that only-
a short dude is 6'4".
Right. Okay. So this only helps my point more, because I was watching a clip of this fool who's like 8'1", and he gets past the ball and he just drops it in.
Yeah.
I think we're getting to a point where the players are so tall that the challenge of actually making a bucket is not all that difficult for most players, right? Especially at an NBA level. I think we need to raise the height of the basketball goal.
The basketball.
I
goal.
think if your average player is going to
If
be
people-
above
if people
6'4",
didn't know
the
that
goal
you-
needs to go up to 13, 14 feet.
If people didn't know that you don't watch basketball by the beginning of your statement, they definitely knew you didn't watch basketball when you called it the basketball goal.
Look, all I'm saying is this 10-foot goal is shenanigans. I want a 14-foot goal. I want to go MTV Rockin' Jock rules where the goal is like 20 feet up, and if you make it, you get 5 points.
Well, I will tell you this. As always, you're completely off base, but at the same time, a little bit, right? Where you're like,
Look,
if you watch the NBA, the amount of offense versus basically no defense is like people. One major reason why people it's seemingly people have really liked the women's side of March Madness maybe more than the men's side. I'm sure viewership has been more for the men's, but there's been a lot more conversation about women's.
a lot more engagement.
And just a lot of more engagement, a lot of like for good and for bad, and the names seem to be much more on the women's side. But a lot of people, and I'm not, I think a lot of people agree with this. When you watch the women's basketball, college basketball, it feels a lot more like truly like I'm watching what basketball kind of should be. I'm watching a lot of passing. I'm watching a full team effort here, especially the best ones. I'm still seeing absolute superstars shoot the ball like crazy, like a Caitlin Clark, like Juju Watkins.
It's a focus on fundamentals.
Yeah, a lot more focus on fundamentals, teamwork. Also, you are getting superstars, though, as opposed to sometimes the men's side can feel more like hero ball. Just everyone being like, I'm going to jack up the three because I'm a great NBA player. You know, I'm just going to go for the hoop, try to take it. Like, sometimes it can feel like the women's side is a little. And the other thing is, because of there are less. Like men's side, if you're really, really good in 1 or 2 years, just go to the NBA. What are you doing in college? Get the hell out of here. On the woman's side, you know, because the WNBA is paying you so much less than the NBA, there's less of an incentive. Nowadays with the NILs too, there's more incentive to stay in college even if you are good for as long as you can. And so it makes it so you're having teams with a lot more players that are like, you know, I may not be the most athletic player in women's college basketball, but I've been on this team for 4 years. And the backups have been on this team for 3 years or even 2 years or 4 years, 5 years, 6 years sometimes. And so just that chemistry makes it so the team can, like, you can see some pretty amazing stuff. You can see some, you know, like not even thinking about it passes and stuff a little bit more sometimes than the hodgepodge of transfers and such of the men's side. Either way, all of March Madness has been great. Even with all this bullshit, it's still been fun to watch all these teams play. There's still some great storylines.
Let me quickly say this. If you don't mind, I'd like to speak directly to the listener.
Please do.
Dear listener, as Adam mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I have not been smoking weed. It has been about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I think we can all agree that, contrary to popular belief, I actually become stupider the more sober I am. I apologize for my stupidity. I do try to be the hot takes guy. You know, it's stupid and it's fun or whatever. But apparently, a sober Aaron is a dumb Aaron. So please, don't listen to anything I have to say. And maybe, Adam, you can cut this and put it before the intro.
No way, man. No
because,
way.
like, bro, I guess I got some growing up to do, Adam.
You're like Draymond. You're like Draymond. Oh my God, that's so funny. And just like Draymond, you're not gonna learn your lesson. You never learn your lesson.
We'll see.
Well, let's see what you really knew when it came down to this.
Shit.
Because let's get into where we're at in the brackets for the Quack 12 tournaments.
Oh, dang.
Shall we?
I don't think I did good.
Neither of us.
I've been getting the email updates, and I have not been paying attention to it because I don't want to be reminded again of how stupid I am.
As always, neither of us are doing very well in our own tournaments.
Great.
Yep, neither of us are doing well at all. On the women's side, I put all my eggs in the Pac-12 winning it all basket. I was hoping it's their final season. I hope they rally. Actually, on both sides, to tell you the truth. I had USC winning it all. It looked pretty decent. They got to the Elite Eight, but they did lose, so I'm out. And where I'm actually trying to literally even find you. Did you make?
I didn't do it.
Wow. Well,
I didn't do the women's because Oregon wasn't going.
Now who's the misogynist,
so I just,
my man?
I just didn't.
So, well,
you sent me a text that said I didn't have to.
Well, now he's the misogynist, me apparently. Well, then our official bracket is number 9 out of 11. We're doing terrible, to tell you the truth. Anyone who chose Iowa or USC, of course, they're doing well. Buzz Lightyear is number 1. So
hey,
yeah.
Of course he is. To infinity and beyond.
It's a lady. How dare you?
Of course they are. To infinity and beyond.
How dare you associate Buzz Lightyear as a man?
I know, my bad.
But so of course it's unfortunate that the favorites are really like you should have just gone with the favorites, the 1 seeds. Buzz Lightyear, it's really going to come down to whether Iowa wins or whether USC wins for these brackets. Buzz Lightyear has a really good shot.
USC, South Carolina. Gotcha.
Sorry, Tina
Gotcha.
Palpa. I'm kind of rooting. Almost. I don't like Dawn Staley. She's. I don't mind. I am a devout atheist, but I don't care if you got a religion. Go power to you. I don't want you to jam it down my throat, but everyone can believe in whatever they want to believe. But so I don't care if you like win a game and you're like, first of all glory to God, blah blah blah. Like that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit more problem when it's like a coach being like, we won this, all glory to God. It's like, I don't know. It just seems a little strange, but whatever. Dawn Staley always takes it to the next level. I always think it's ridiculous to be like, we won this game because God willed it. Because it's like, okay, so when you lose, does that mean you were too much of a sinner and so God has now punished you with a big ol' L? Like, it feels a little like, eh. And then recently she had by far the worst quote when she beat Oregon State. She says, if you don't believe in God, something's wrong with you. When you're at your worst, he's at his best. Like, now you're genuinely...
Oh, God.
You're genuinely crossing a line where you're like, I don't know. Now you're being ridiculous. I don't love Dawn Staley. She's a great coach. And she's pretty fun. And I'm rooting for Tina Pow very much so.
Okay.
What's that?
Updates, Adam.
Updates.
Yeah, first off, don't bring Jesus into this.
Are you talking about Cameron Brink? I'm finally realizing this. Is that it?
I am talking about... Remember how I was like, blonde hair?
Yeah.
No, it's brunette.
You're talking about Caitlin Clark?
I'm talking about Iowa player number 22, Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yes, the most famous women's basketball player in America.
A brutal shove.
Oh, yeah.
No foul.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely
This is
ludicrous,
what I'm saying.
my
This
guy.
is what I'm saying, my man. But
I'm an idiot. Yes, we all know.
you can find examples of just about everything. Like you can find examples of the refs being way too lenient with Caitlin Clark. You can find examples of Caitlin Clark just getting away with just egregious shit. You can also find examples of people punching Caitlin Clark in the face and not getting called for it.
Interesting.
And then online you can find people being like way harsher on Caitlin Clark because they'll be like, well, if this happened to a black player, then everyone would be calling it out and everyone would be calling her a thug and shit like that.
I mean,
And
not
then-
wrong.
And then you'll find, clips of like, yeah, not wrong. Then you'll find clips of like Angel Reese doing real shady shit, real sportsman shit, unsportsman shit, and you'll see people actively doing that where people are calling shit about her and like and some of it is justified and then some of it is being like so much harsher and clearly being like our white savior Caitlin Clark is great, and then Angel Reese doing the exact same stuff that Caitlin Clark is doing is terrible and she's a thug and she's awful. Probably some of the same people that are sending death threats to her, and these two, and you got to give them credit for this too. With all this noise, and yeah, they did have a big game where it was like real contentious last year. When they played each other this time, they were nothing but cordial, and they kept saying like,
Okay.
you know what, I got nothing against her.
Greatness meets greatness.
Yeah, I got nothing against her. She's got nothing against me. We're both very competitive, but I wish her the best. Like there were like, I don't know. All these things are very complicated, and something that you see on TV for a second, like where someone looks like they blow someone off,
Or my TikTok feed.
or your TikTok feed, things taken out of context. Like people take that and then they write huge freaking things and they assume shit and they go like, oh, well,
Yep.
clearly she was talking
They-
shit about her. And it's like, you don't know shit, man. No one knows
They-
shit.
They co-host an hour-long podcast thinking they understand the nuances
two dudes,
and get the hair color wrong.
Dude, non-athletes who don't know what they're talking about, don't know basketball, going off.
God.
Yeah, no,
Look,
exactly.
You said earlier, I hope I learned something. I think I did, Adam. I think I've learned maybe I should keep my mouth shut when it comes to women's sports because I don't do the research to back up anything.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that'll be good for future podcast episodes.
This is one of those real foot and mouth episodes for me, I do declare.
I mean, America is really going through this too. Because, like I'm saying, like,
right.
But you could also, like, there was a clip where Caitlin Clark was complaining about the refs, like, them not giving her a call. And then they cut to Caitlin Clark's dad in the stands being like, stop complaining, like clearly talking to her, and she's talking to him like, well, there's it's like it's these funny little instances.
funny.
I mean, you know, it's a complicated thing. In the end, it's actually
we're in a tough time as a country. We're in a tough time. It's spreading into all facets of our everyday life. You know, everyone's under pressure.
It's made it so it's cool things where it's like players like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark can make millions through NIL and through sponsorships, which is pretty freaking cool. At the same time, the other side of the coin is they're receiving literal death threats, literal shit,
which is fucking insane.
Like maybe they want to, sure, it's like I'm on the cover of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition. I am putting myself out there to be like I'm a sexual being, but then people taking it so far the other direction, we're just like, Jesus Christ, and it's a very complicated thing.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's not complicated. Don't be a fucking dick. That's about
How many male athletes have you seen in, Calvin Klein boxer brief ads, but they're not getting the same kind of scrutiny?
Well,
right?
it's a thing too. It's like, let's say, like, let's say there's a picture of LeBron with his shirt off, and then people are being like, oh my God, he's so ripped. Like, where is the line where you're just being like, well, they're showing their body, and I'm talking about their body, and that's fine. And then also at a certain point, you're being like, I don't know. These are all complicated things, my man. All I got to say is, if it wasn't for Kim Mulkey, LSU's coach, I totally would have been like, I'm a Bayou Barbie backer. I love that she's fucking basically, she's the bad girl of all of college sports. And
I think we could
she's fucking cool.
all agree. Suburban Karens with bad fashion sense.
They're the real enemy,
really need to go away. They just need to go away.
And suburban male Karens. Because there's fucking male Karens.
Oh, yeah, they exist. I said suburban Karens with bad fashion sense.
That's not all genders, yeah.
What is the male equivalent? A Carl?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know.
A Calvin?
I don't know.
Kevin?
A Donald?
I don't know.
There's I loved Texas's coach, who is a male for the women's team. He was part of that thing with the 3-point line. And he's like, I've been talking to all my other coach friends and stuff like that, and we all agree this would only happen in women's basketball. Only in women's basketball would they allow something like this at this stage to happen. And the way we're gonna fix this. Watch more women's basketball on every single level. If you support them, if your first instinct isn't just to shit on women's basketball, isn't to be like, oh well, they can't dunk. If you don't go for just the easiest, stupidest joke, and instead actually support people from the lowest levels, which just is what Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are doing, regardless of what you want to say about, sportsmanship, blah, 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 blah. They're getting people to watch it. They're letting younger girls know that's like, I want to be one of them. And that's really the most important thing of all this. And it lets them know that it's like, I can make money. I can be in commercials. Like that's the most important thing.
Though.
And it makes the game better.
Yeah.
In every facet.
I will say this. The 3-point line does create what could possibly be a more interesting game. Like, let's take football, for example, right? A lot of stadiums are outside. So when teams win the flip-off, or the coin toss, you decide which way do you want to go.
Yeah.
And usually you take into effect, well, is the wind blowing? What time of day is it? Where's the sun going to be when? So what if, and both men's and women's, not just women's, but basketball in general, what if you created a game where one side of the court, the three-point line's a little bit closer, the goal's a little bit shorter, a little bit bigger, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that is the advantage side, because at halftime, you switch directions.
It would
so
throw
both
off
teams
your muscle memory like crazy. Yeah, I mean.
which is also really fun. So, like, both teams do get access to this fraudulent side.
And maybe-
but you get to choose, do you want to try and break ahead in the beginning and hope they can't catch up to you, or do you want to defend it because you know you can take them down?
So
you know what I mean?
basketball would be like, okay, so why not just make the court like sloped too? Like a slight slope. So literally the ball is always going to roll down because it's downhill, And then like one side is like a 20-foot hoop with barely enough space for this ball to get in there. Right?
And it's slightly bent.
It's slightly bent. Too.
Right.
It's pretty bent.
Like a carnival, and a slightly askew.
and it's oval too. And then the other side,
one side atrociously hard to score at. The other side
is
way too easy.
Is a play school, like literally
Little
a
Tykes.
plastic Little Tykes play school hoop.
Two different balls. One is the handheld, like squishy foam.
There's actually two of them too. So like you can choose either one to shoot in, on the play school side.
There's also a smaller mini court that is right next to the basketball court. That is a 3-on-3 game of 12-year-olds who are constantly getting to score, whose points count towards your points as well.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we just invented it. I think it's gonna work.
Woo! So I mean, I don't know, man. It's been quite the week of basketball, and like.
I mean, for real,
you're feeling a little. You're like, oh, did I put my foot in my mouth? But I'm telling you, these are the conversations that America is having right now.
I think it's a great conversation. I'm glad you woke me up a little bit more. I'm glad we got to have that conversation. I'm glad women's basketball is showing it. It's yet again, you have to get men out of the way to have real fucking conversations, because otherwise it's just going to be a diluted mess.
You know what I'm really glad about?
What?
I'm glad we didn't invite a woman on this episode to get her point of view.
Oh my God! Could you imagine just the prattling on and on?
Oh God! God! Well, this is our last episode. This should be.
We're done.
We're canceled. Bye. There's other news.
Do we have any Kelly Graves updates? Do we have any transfer updates? Do we have anything going on in that
Williams, world? I'm watching that transfer portal from the women's side, and I'm still so Priscilla Williams, who she didn't. If I'm being real, she didn't contribute. It's a double-sided coin, because you're like, well, she was useful, especially with people being injured. She did come in, put in some good minutes, averaged about under 3 points per game, so not like really making a huge difference, but at the same time 3 points per game when you're averaging like 9 points per quarter ain't bad. So that's not like a huge red flag, as I've been saying, and as many women's basketball fans, Oregon women's basketball fans, I think agreed. I would say, if Philipina Che, Grace Van Slooten, and/or Chance Gray, if any of them leave, huge red flag. We're fucked. There is no momentum to be had in this program. It is dead in the water. Next year will be probably not worse, because it's hard to be worse, but maybe worse. And also watching the tournament, it is sad to see all these ex-Oregon Duck players in March Madness playing great. watching Angela DeGolic over at UCLA, Jazz Shelley, I think for Nebraska, if I remember correctly, Tahina Pau. I mean, I love seeing Tahina Pau kill it. It's very fun, but it's sad that she had to leave the Oregon Ducks to do it. And recruiting-wise, I believe we got another recruit. I forget her name, but I'm excited. She's really defensive-minded. That's very cool. I'm needing top 100 players. I'm needing 5-star players. That's what it's going to take for us to be competitive if we're being fucking real with this team. Even with us returning players from injury, we need more. Even more than returning Peyton Scott, who got injured in that first game last season. Like, we need more. On the men's side, we actually just lost a really promising recruit that was going to come in. But my theory is that's because Dana Altman, because we're losing Couisnard and Dante, which they absolutely should be going. This is one of the weakest NBA drafts in maybe ever. Everyone's saying it's a
period across the board.
Yeah, they're saying like this talent sucks, which is good.
Really?
Which is really, really good for players like Dante and Couisnard, who have reasons why you shouldn't take them. Mainly, for Couisnard, it's mainly he's been there for, they think he's an old maid. It's like, oh, it's been 4 years.
Sure, but he also
years,
still 40-point games.
Dude, I mean, anyone who watched those two March Madness, like those two games helped him out huge, and he had a great season, a great couple of last season. So, and like, I mean, did you watch the fucking guy?
How interesting.
And then Dante, his big red flags are he's had many injuries. He can't hit the three, which nowadays in the NBA, even a big man like him, they're expecting you to hit the three because that's where the game's going. But there's still room for him on certain rosters. And it may really help him. Maybe he can get on an NBA roster. He's going to play professionally regardless, but maybe he can do it in America. And, maybe he can really make a name for the dude is, I'm never doubting Dante, one of the all-time great Oregon men's basketball players, period. I'm rooting for them. Keyshawn Barth.
I will say, it is just kind of surprising to me that all of the analysts or whomever are talking about it being a weak
it is, my man.
Grouping, because there was at least a player on Arizona where I was like, that dude is scary. That dude's going to destroy in the NBA.
Ballo, probably thinking.
Yeah, and because of that, I just assumed there must be at least 30 more of him. There's so many teams out there.
You got to remember, dude. I don't know what the way to think about it. I know this is for football. What they say is the best 1% of high schoolers get to the college level. Less than 1% of the best college players get to an NFL roster. It's about that for the NBA. Even these great players you're seeing in college basketball, you put them in the NBA, they're fucking nothing because everyone is so amazing. The talent is just fantastic. And like, you may be like, oh, I'm a great big guy in college. Like, I know my role. I'm doing. In the NBA, it's like, our big guys can shoot the 3 too, and they're complete athletes. Like, that's just where the game is. Your shooting percentage needs to be high as hell. Everyone's you got to be a complete player. But
I would love to see a draftless season. They just go, you know what? It's absolute shit. Pass.
Yeah.
Why do I want to pick up a bench player? Why would I want to spend $500,000 for somebody to sit on the bench? I already got 8 of those dudes.
Yeah, no, they're saying a lot of the people that are in this draft is like they're never going to be a starter. Like why?
God, that's insane.
Yeah, it's a terrible one. But again, like maybe that's great for Couisnard. Because one of the reasons, like, people just weren't watching. They don't watch West Coast basketball for college,
right?
And so maybe the tournament noise he made is enough to get him on a roster. He deserves it, man. That dude was fucking.
it also is going to really put a shine on whoever that rookie is
Oh,
that
yeah.
just comes out of the gate humming.
Well, people
like,
last year,
whoa.
people again, just you sleep on West Coast basketball, and then Jaime Jaquez got drafted, and he has been a steal for the Miami Heat. People love him. People were like, he's been in college for 4 years, like. He can't be that good on it. Like, if he was that good, he would have already been in the NBA. He's great because of that experience he earned in college. He's Rookie of the Year. Like, so
Right.
they just don't know, and you never know. And yeah,
You never know.
yeah. Basketball is my favorite sport. I love the way they dribble up and down the court.
Amen.
Amen. Any words of wisdom heading out into the final week of March Madness?
Oh, yeah. Don't listen to me. And, don't fucking send death threats
Yeah, just
to athletes. Uncool.
yeah.
Uncool.
Uncool. Uncool. There you go. Don't set death threats. If you're going to send your death threats, send them to us because we can take them. We've actually received quite a few.
Also, don't wish your enemies to unalive themselves. Also uncool.
Very uncool. I don't know who would possibly do that. Certainly no one on this podcast.
I don't know.
If it was, it certainly would have been edited out. That's for sure. Bye.
All right. Bye.